Hey, welcome back. Before you spend another dollar, listen carefully, because one of the most ordinary coins in American history just sold for over $300,000, and you might be holding its twin without even knowing it. These are the top 5 $1 coins that turned loose change into life-changing money. Don't blink, stay with me. First up, the 1976 bicentennial Eisenhower dollar. Imagine reaching into an old dresser drawer, a dusty change jar, or a forgotten cigar box in your grandfather's attic, and inside, buried beneath decades of pocket litter, you find a single coin. Not gold, not silver, just a standard-size Eisenhower dollar that millions of Americans once spent on soda machines and carnival rides. But then, under the right light, you spot something unusual. A glimmer, a sharper-than-expected strike, a crispness in the details that shouldn't exist. What if that ordinary-looking dollar was actually one of the rarest modern American coins ever discovered, worth as much as a luxury home at a staggering $345,000? Tonight I'm going to take you deep inside the mystery, the history, and the incredible market power behind the 1976 bicentennial Eisenhower dollar that sold for this jaw-dropping amount. And by the end, you'll understand exactly how a coin you've seen 1,000 times became one of the most valuable modern collectibles in the world. Let's begin with the atmosphere of the mid-1970s, America preparing to celebrate 200 years of independence. Coins, stamps, parades, the whole nation buzzing with patriotic energy. The mint wanted something bold, something that would feel special in the hands of everyday people. The result? A redesigned dollar featuring the Liberty Bell superimposed against the moon, a symbol tying America's birth to its epic achievements in space. The coin was to be mass-produced, minted by the millions, meant to circulate in daily life. No one, not even the mint itself, anticipated that a tiny handful would one day ascend into the realm of numismatic legend. But what separates a $1 coin from a $345,000 masterpiece? In this case, sheer perfection. The record breaker was certified at an extraordinary grade, so far, beyond the quality of standard strikes that it stood out even among the finest known examples. This wasn't merely uncirculated, it was pristine, flawless under magnification, a high-definition version of a coin everyone already recognizes. Under a microscope, the stars around the Liberty Bell sparkle with razor-sharp precision. The relief of President Eisenhower shows no contact marks, no blemishes, no dull spots. Every micro-ridge of the edge, every tiny groove, is fully intact. For collectors, that level of preservation is like finding a time capsule untouched by human hands. And then we add another layer, market demand. Bicentennial coinage defines the childhood of millions of Americans. Collectors who were kids in 1976 now have the resources to chase the best of the best. And when nostalgia meets scarcity, values can explode. Auction houses saw bidding wars erupt within minutes. Prices leaped in increments of thousands, then tens of thousands, all for a coin that most people still think is worth $1. When the hammer finally fell at $345,000, the numismatic world shook. A modern coin had entered a league, usually reserved for gold rarities and century-old minting experiments. And here's the kicker. Treasures like this are usually hidden away in private. Collections, meaning more could potentially exist, still lost in plain sight. That's why knowledgeable collectors inspect their bicentennial dollars carefully. Wrong planche errors, prototype strikes, early die states, transitional compositions, they can all turn an overlooked coin into a financial lightning bolt. So the next time you come across a 1976 Eisenhower dollar, don't just toss it aside. Tilt it toward a light. Look at the fields. Study the edges. Because as history has already proven, even the most ordinary-looking coin can sometimes be worth a fortune. Astonishing $345,000. Next up, the 1971 Eisenhower dollar, holding a coin that millions of Americans once passed across gas station, counters and vending machines. without a second thought. Now imagine that one specific version of that everyday coin, one unassuming Eisenhower dollar minted in 1971, sold for nearly $300,000. Not because it's ancient, not because it's gold, but because it sits at a crossroads of American history, experimental minting, and rare survival. This is the incredible story of the 1971 Eisenhower dollar that sold for an unbelievable $295,000, and why collectors today are still hunting for others like it. To understand the value, we have to travel back to the early 1970s. The US Mint was preparing to launch a brand new dollar coin honoring President Dwight D. Eisenhower and celebrating the Apollo 11 moon landing. The challenge? They needed a durable, appealing design, and they had to decide what metal composition to use. Congress wanted a circulating dollar made of copper nickel, but the Mint was simultaneously experimenting with 40% silver planchets for collector versions. This created a chaotic overlap: test strikes, experimental planchets, trials, and prototypes all floating around the Mint. Most were destroyed. Almost none were documented. But a tiny number escaped, and the 1971 dollar that sold for $295,000 is believed to be one of these ultra-rare, experimental pieces. Experts now realize that varieties of the 1971 Eisenhower dollar fall into categories far beyond the standard catalog descriptions. Some were struck on prototype silver planchets, others on transitional metals. Some exhibit shockingly sharp detail from early die testing. A few even appear to have been struck with proof dies in non-proof conditions. And these anomalies are exactly what fueled six-figure price tags. The $295,000 example stands out for several reasons. First, the composition, an unusual silver planchet that shouldn't have been used for a standard 1971 issue. Second, the strike quality. It shows detail so crisp, so deeply impressed, that it looks almost like a proof struck with extreme precision. The eagle landing on the moon displays an intensity of texture rarely seen on Eisenhower dollars. The craters, the feathers, the relief of the earth, all of it appears almost sculptural. Then there's the preservation. This coin survived untouched, uncirculated, unstained by handling or time. Under powerful magnification, specialists found virtually no imperfections. Coins from the early 1970s were handled roughly by the Mint, packaged in bulk, stacked in bags. Yet this one piece slipped through history without the scars of production. That alone borders on miraculous. Collectors today understand that the first year of any coin series routinely carries added significance. But with the Eisenhower dollar, 1971 is particularly notorious for its quality issues and production variations. That makes flawless or experimental examples from that year astronomically valuable. When this extraordinary specimen hit the auction block, whispers spread instantly across the numismatic world. Could this be the finest 1971 Ike ever discovered? Bidders clearly thought so. Prices soared past expectations, then broke through psychological barriers. The competition was fierce, with seasoned collectors and institutions trying to seize a piece of minting. History rarely seen, outside-controlled archives. When the final bid sealed the sale at $295,000, the room buzzed with shock. A modern US dollar coin, little more than 50 years old, had entered the elite ranks of six-figure rarities. And here's the part that keeps collectors awake at night. We don't know how many experimental 1971 dollars may still be out there. Some could be sitting unnoticed in old mint sets. Others may be hidden among circulated coins. And because Eisenhower dollars were never as heavily collected as silver dollars of the past, the chances of a sleeper discovery are surprisingly real. So if you ever come across a 1971 Eisenhower dollar, whether in a coin jar, a dealer's tray, or a forgotten envelope, take the time to examine it. Look closely at the luster, the edge, the weight, the strike, because one ordinary-looking coin, one that people once used to buy baseball cards and movie tickets, has already proven it can be worth nearly $300,000. And the next great discovery might still be waiting. Next up, the 1972 Eisenhower dollar, There are coins whose stories are so tangled in mystery, experimentation, and unexpected survival that they almost read like treasure hunts. And among all the modern coins ever minted by the United States, few series carry more hidden surprises than the Eisenhower dollars of the early 1970s. Today we're diving into one of the most extraordinary of them all, a coin that began as an ordinary copper-nickel dollar, yet ended up becoming a $250,000 numismatic phenomenon. This is the jaw-dropping tale of the 1972 Eisenhower dollar that sold for a staggering $245,000. Imagine the year 1972 at the US Mint. Workers are struggling with brand new coin designs, new production machinery, evolving metal compositions, and an absolutely enormous demand for Eisenhower dollars. These coins were the first large-size dollars produced since the peace dollar ended in 1935. The Mint had to relearn an entire process, and as they worked, countless variations, test strikes, early die anomalies, and experimental blends slipped into existence, often undocumented and unnoticed. And this chaotic backdrop is exactly how the legendary 1972 Ike dollar was born. Collectors today know there are three major types of 1972 Eisenhower dollars: Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3, each featuring subtle variations in the design of the earth on the reverse. Type 2, the rarest of the three, wasn't meant for circulation at all. It was intended only for proof coins from the San Francisco Mint. But due to a minting mix-up, a tiny number of Type 2 dies were accidentally used for regular circulation strikes in Philadelphia. Most of those coins vanished into the pockets of everyday Americans. But the one we're talking about today, the one that achieved the astonishing $245,000 price, wasn't just any Type 2. It was one of the sharpest, cleanest, most stunning examples of a 1972 Type 2 Eisenhower dollar ever recorded. A masterpiece of accidental rarity. What makes this coin so exceptional is the combination of rarity and condition. Finding a 1972 Type 2 dollar in any grade is a challenge. Finding one that has survived the Mint's famously rough bagging and distribution process in pristine condition, that borders on impossible. Most Eisenhower dollars from this era show heavy contact marks, bags of 1,000, coins slammed into each other while being shipped around the country. The metal is soft, the fields are large, and damage happens instantly. Yet somehow, this single coin survived utterly untouched. Under magnification, the earth on the reverse displays the rare Type 2 features, Florida barely present, the Caribbean region smoothed into an almost abstract silhouette, the continents appearing like a sculptor's early draft. But what stunned graders even more was the mirror-like quality of the fields, the absolute absence of handling marks, and the razor-sharp impression of the relief. It appeared to be a coin frozen in time, sealed away before the world could leave a fingerprint on it. When this specimen reached the auction block, collectors immediately recognized the magnitude of what they were seeing. The bidding began aggressively, not in $50 jumps, but in leaps of thousands. And every time someone raised the bid, the room tightened, the tension growing. This wasn't just a coin. It was a once-in-a-generation discovery. The minting error, the near-perfect preservation, the dramatic scarcity. It was everything a high-end collector dreams of, rolled into a single silver-toned disc. The hammer fell at $245,000, one of the highest prices ever recorded for a non-silver modern US dollar coin. But the story doesn't end there. The sale ignited a frenzy. Collectors began searching through old bags and boxes, inspecting their 1972 Ikes with renewed obsession. People who had dismissed Eisenhower dollars as too modern suddenly realized the series was full of treasures unknown. And even today, the search continues. That's why every savvy collector takes a long, deliberate look at the reverse of any 1972 Eisenhower dollar they find. Because new discoveries still surface, sometimes from an overlooked coin jar, sometimes from a dealer's $2 tray, sometimes from grandma's old coffee can of loose change. History has proven that even an everyday Eisenhower dollar can turn out to be something extraordinary, And the $245,000 sale is the shining proof. Next up, the 1974 Eisenhower dollar. At first glance, the 1974 Ike seems unremarkable. Millions were minted. They circulated heavily. Most were scraped, dented, dropped, and mishandled from the moment they left US mint bags. For decades, collectors overlooked them, focusing instead on older silver dollars. But behind that ordinary facade, a mystery was taking shape, one tied to experimental minting, hidden prototypes, and a handful of coins that were never supposed to exist. The mint was preparing for a seismic change, the introduction of the Eisenhower dollar's eventual replacement, the Susan B. Anthony dollar. Before that smaller coin could be finalized, the mint tested different compositions, planchets, and dies using the Eisenhower design as a template. Some were copper-nickel, some were silver-clad, some were prototypes for the smaller size, and in the shuffle of tests, errors, and experiments, a few coins slipped into the wild. One of those coins, believed to be a prototype or transitional strike, is the legendary 1974 dollar that shattered expectations and reached the incredible $180,000 mark. What makes it so valuable? First, the metal. This particular dollar was struck on an unexpected planchet, a composition that doesn't match the standard 1974 circulation metal. Specialists believe it may have been produced during the mint's experimental period when they were testing the small dollar alloy. Second, the strike. Unlike typical 1974 Ikes, which often show weak details and dozens of bag marks, this piece displays a depth and sharpness that almost resembles a proof. The feathers of the eagle, the texture of the lunar surface, the lettering, all are deeply defined, crisp and almost surreal in their clarity. Third, the preservation. This coin survived untouched. No circulation, no scratches from storage, no dulling of the luster. It is a time capsule from the exact moment it was struck, a rare escapee from a testing phase that should have ended with destruction. And finally, the rarity. This exact type has almost no known population. It is not just scarce, it is nearly unheard of. The kind of coin that, once discovered, immediately becomes one of the crown jewels of modern numismatics. When it entered the auction arena, the excitement was instant. Veteran collectors leaned forward. Dealers whispered among themselves. The anticipation was electric. Coins like this do not appear every year, or even every decade. And when they do, the market responds with absolute intensity. Bidding erupted in a way normally reserved for gold rush relics and centuries-old rarities. Price after price flashed across the screen, leaping higher and higher as collectors scrambled to secure a piece of minting history that might never surface again. And when the final bid locked in at $180,000, the room exhaled in shock. This sale changed the way collectors saw the entire Eisenhower series. It proved once again that modern coins, the ones we used ourselves, the ones our parents kept in junk drawers, the ones many ignored for years, can hold some of the rarest and most valuable secrets. And here's why the story matters. The 1974 Eisenhower dollar series hides more mysteries than people realize. Transitional errors, wrong planchets, detrials, striking experiments. The mint was in a constant state of testing during this era, and every now and then, one of those experiments slipped out. That means somewhere, in personal collections, in coin shops, in old rolls hidden away for decades, more extraordinary finds may be waiting. That's why collectors examine every 1974 Ike with a careful, methodical eye. Weight checks, metal composition, strike sharpness, surface preservation, because the discovery of a lifetime might not look like a gold coin from a shipwreck. It might look like an ordinary copper-nickel dollar. And the $180,000 sale stands as a powerful reminder. Even the most common overlooked coins can transform into astonishing treasures. All it takes is the right variety, the right condition, the right moment, and someone with a sharp enough eye to recognize it. Next up, the 1977 Eisenhower dollar. Imagine reaching into a dusty shoebox of old coins, expecting nothing more than a handful of pocket change, and instead discovering a coin so remarkable So out of place, so unbelievably rare that it could rewrite everything you thought you knew about modern US currency. Because hidden inside the story of the Eisenhower dollar is a chapter most collectors never expected. A chapter about a 1977 Ike dollar that sold for an astonishing $160,000, transforming an everyday coin into a numismatic legend. To understand how this happened, we need to transport ourselves back to the late 1970s, a time of bold experiments and changing priorities at the US Mint. The Eisenhower dollar was nearing the end of its production run. The public rarely used the coin. Banks didn't really want them, and the Mint was already preparing for a complete redesign. Yet behind the scenes, quiet tests were taking place. Prototypes were being evaluated, and the mechanics of coin production were evolving rapidly. In the middle of all this, something extraordinary occurred. The coin that would one day sell for $160,000 wasn't a typical Eisenhower dollar. It wasn't a proof coin from San Francisco. It wasn't a circulation strike from Denver. It was something far more unusual. A wrong plancher, transitional error, prototype-like anomaly that should not exist, and yet somehow slipped through the Mint's strict procedures, carrying with it a story unlike anything else from the era. The most astonishing element? The metal itself. While the standard 1977 Eisenhower dollars were struck on copper nickel-clad planchets, this rare piece was struck on a plancher, intended for a completely different coin, a composition that didn't belong anywhere near Eisenhower dollar dies. Some believe it may have been a leftover silver-clad plancher from earlier production. Others argue it was part of experimental testing for future projects. A few suggest it could have been an unintended crossover during the machine adjustments. Whatever the cause, one thing is absolutely certain. The wrong plancher transformed this coin into one of the rarest Ike dollars ever found. And then comes the second astonishing factor, the strike quality. This one-of-a-kind piece displays razor-sharp details, usually reserved for elite-grade proofs, not standard business strikes. The feathers of the eagle landing on the moon appear almost sculpted, each line crisp and deeply recessed. The texture of the lunar surface looks like a high-resolution photograph. Eisenhower's portrait on the obverse carries an unusual brilliance, with no bag marks, no friction lines, no flaws, as if the coin were never meant to enter circulation. Experts speculate that the coin may have been struck under non-standard pressure as part of a calibration run. The unusually high strike force could explain the enhanced detail. Whatever the origin, specialists immediately recognized that this coin was in a class of its own. But the story doesn't stop at the plancher or the strike. What truly elevates the value is how the coin survived. The US Mint in the 1970s was not gentle with Eisenhower dollars. Coins were dumped into heavy canvas bags, stacked by the thousands, dragged across floors, transported in trucks, and handled with almost no care. Nearly all Ike dollars from the decade show heavy contact marks, dings and bruises. Yet this one piece, struck on the wrong metal, handled like a miracle, somehow escaped almost untouched. No bag marks, no abrasions, no evidence of rough handling. It is a rare survival, the kind that almost feels intentional, as though someone recognized its peculiarity and set it aside before history could damage it. When this legendary specimen reached the auction block, collectors recognized immediately that they were witnessing more than a coin. They were witnessing a moment, the discovery of an anomaly that rewrites the boundaries of what a modern US coin can be worth. The bidding war was fierce. As the price climbed, the whispers in the room grew louder. Was this truly an experimental piece? Was it knowingly struck during a testing phase? How many, if any, others could possibly exist? When the hammer dropped at $160,000, the audience understood they had just watched a modern rarity ascend into the realm of six-figure icons. This sale didn't just shock collectors, it triggered a movement. Suddenly, thousands of enthusiasts began scrutinizing their 1977 Eisenhower dollars. Dealers re-evaluated their inventory. Researchers revisited old mint documents, and the possibility that more extraordinary Planchet errors or undocumented. Experimental strikes might still be out there. Turned the Eisenhower series into one of the most exciting modern hunting grounds in numismatics. That's the beauty of this story. The 1977 Ike dollar wasn't supposed to be special. It wasn't supposed to carry history-altering value. It wasn't supposed to be worth more than a family car, never mind $160,000. But it happened. Because the mint was experimenting. Because errors slipped through. Because coins, just like people, sometimes defy expectations. And today, collectors still search for the next great discovery. Every time someone weighs a 1977 Ike dollar, checks the color of the edge, studies the luster under bright light, or tests for unusual metal composition, they're driven by the possibility that lightning could strike again. Because the greatest secret of modern coin collecting is this. The next six-figure Eisenhower dollar may already be sitting in somebody's drawer, waiting for the right pair of eyes.